meant to keep some of that consciousness with you, but somehow we kind of learn how to become detached, trying to find happiness to your activities.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to the power of God. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 1, Chapter 18, Text 32. And we're fortunate to have Her Grace, Vrindavaneswari Radhika from ISKCON, Philadelphia, to give the class. Hare Krishna, Mataji, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to the power of God.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, all glories to Prabhupada, please accept my obeisances. Good morning,
Jai.
everyone.
Hare
Jai.
Krishna. Jai.
So
And
we'll
it's all
get
yours. You can start
thank
whenever.
you.
Hare Krishna.
Jaya Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Gopi Jana Baba Giridhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vachari Jai Radha Madhava Punjabi Hari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashodanandana Vrajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Sari Sata His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Sari Sata His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namachari Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Shiva Sati Gaur Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai. Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakun Radha Kun Gita Govardhan Ki Jai. Mayapurdam Ki Jai, Vrindavandam Ki Jai, Jamuna Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Devi Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai, ISKCON Harrisburg Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakti Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Pramanande, Hari Bol. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Garanga, Hari Bol. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravana Pratharane Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschata Deshaparane. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskrita Naranchayva Narotana Devam Sarasvatim Vyasyam Jajotayam Adiraya Nastaprayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloki Bhaktir Bhavati Naisaki. So good morning everyone. I'm gonna read the verse 3 times and then you can chime in. Tasya Putro Tise Jasvi Viharam Balakto Ribeke Rajyaham Prapitam Tatam Shrutva Tatredam Abridit Tasya Putro Tite Jasvi Viharam Balako Ribeke Rajyanam Prapitam Tatam Shrutva Tatredam Abravit Tasya Putro Tite Jasvi Viharam Baloka Ribake Rajganam Prapitam Tatam Shrutvastatredam Abravit. Anyone else?
Tasya puto ti tejasvi viharan balakor bakai ragya gam papitam tatam sudva tatredam abravit. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else?
तस्य पुत्रो अतितेजस्वी विहरन् बालको आभ्रके राज्ञाघं प्रापितं तातं श्रुत्वा तत्रेदम् अब्रवीत्. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? One more person. Give it a try. No? Okay. So we're going to do word for word translation. Tasya, his, the sages. Putraha, son. Ati, extremely. Tajesvi, powerful. Viharan, while playing. Balakaha, with boys. Arbakaya, who were all children. Rajya, by the king. Agam, distress. Prapitan, made to have. Tatam, the father. Shrutva, by hearing. Tatra, then and there. Idam, this. Abravit, spoke. Excuse me. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The sage had a son who was very powerful, being a Brahmana's son. While he was playing with inexperienced boys, he heard of his father's distress, which was occasioned by the king. Then and there, the boy spoke as follows. Purport. Due to the boy's Due to Maharaparikshit's good governance, and even a boy of tender age who was playing with other inexperienced boys could become as powerful as a qualified Brahmana. This boy was known as Shringi, and he achieved the training in brahmacharya by his father so that he could be as powerful as a Brahmana even at that age. But because the age of Kali was seeking an opportunity to spoil the cultural heritage of the four orders of life, the inexperienced boy gave a chance for the age of Kali to enter into the field of Vedic culture. Hatred of the lower orders of life began from this Brahmana boy under the influence of Kali, and thus cultural life began to dwindle day after day. The first victim of Brahminical injustice was Maharaj Parikshit, and thus protection given by the king against the onslaught of Kali was slackened. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Takshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Shrayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swadvatantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Shiva Sati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Vanchakalpatarubhishcha Chakra Sindhu Devi Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Saraswaminiti Namane Snigdha Chaita Supaneta Vagmanam Trasikutam Prabhupada Bhakti Charapatam. So I'll read the translation again. The sage had a son who was very powerful, being a Brahmana's son. While he was playing with inexperienced boys, he heard of his father's distress, which was occasioned by the king. Then and there, the boy spoke as follows. So let's just do a quick recap for those of you who may have been dipping in and out of class the past couple of weeks. So really what's happening here is Maharaj Parikshit was in the woods. He was, coming back. He was out coming back from somewhere, and he became very thirsty and very hungry. And he came upon a sage's residence. And this was a very great sage. He was deep in meditation. He was completely just absorbed in his meditation. And so Maharaj Parikshit entered into his hermitage and asked for some water, but he was not received. And so the great sage Shanika Rishi was, he was still in meditation. He remained in meditation. He was very deep and very absorbed. He didn't even know that Maharaj Parikshit had to come in. Maharaj Parikshit, being very thirsty, took an offense to this. He's a great king. He took an offense to the fact that he was not received. And so then, because he was angry and feeling offended, he grabbed a snake with his stick, and he put it over it was a limp snake, and he put it over the shoulders of this rishi, of this Muni, and he left, and that was it. But the sage's son was out and about playing with his friends, and he suddenly, felt distress. So he wasn't even there. He didn't witness it. He just felt it. He felt distress. And so in this feeling of distress, and the story goes on, which you'll be reading in the next few weeks. But the young boy felt extremely distressed by someone making an offense to his father, and he cursed Maharaj Parikshit. So now this verse is getting into really understanding the boy's mentality. He was a very powerful, because he was the son of this Shamika Rishi. He's a very powerful, child, but he was also very experienced, and he was very naive. And he, when he felt that this father was in distress, he became very angry. And so, even though Maharaj Parikshit was an incredibly elevated king, he was a devotee of the Lord. The son did not have the maturity and the understanding to realize that this was a tremendous mistake that he made by cursing the king. So this brings us to really today's verse. This is leading up to him cursing the king, but today's verse is really illustrating how Kali Yuga can start to come in. So Kali Yuga was just looking for an opportunity to be able to invade, to take over the last bit of goodness of Vedic principles. the Kali Yuga was just waiting for this opportunity, and this young, angry boy that was very inexperienced was the perfect opportunity to trigger these events. So, why couldn't Krishna protect Maharaj Parikshit? Why couldn't, and, Krishna can do anything, the Lord can do anything, but we know that uh, this is also the kicking off of Kali Yuga, which is to come. That the Yuga cycles come, and there are certain events that kick them off, but they come regardless. And Krishna has his devotees that are there to play the part to carry out these particular activities and mark these events. And so Maharaj Parikshit, being a deep and devoted person to Lord Krishna, was that person. He was that devotee to kick things off for Kali Yuga. But here, we see this young boy. We see he was inexperienced. He was in ignorance, and he was angry. He became very angry. And when I was reading this verse, it took me right back to one of the very basic verses in Nectar of Instruction. Vacho vegam manasha kroda vegam jiva vegam udara pasta vegam etan vegam yovisha hete dhiram sarvam apiman parivim sashishya. And this is a sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. So here, the actions of anger. And while one might say, well, he was defending his father, but he did not have the full story to be able to understand how to defend or to handle the situation. He did not have the full understanding. He was in avidya. He was in ignorance. He wasn't fully knowledgeable of the situation. And when his father found out what happened, he was very distressed. He prayed to the Lord. Oh my goodness, this is a huge offense, because he knew that Maharaj Parikshit was such a great devotee of the Lord. So this father, the sage who had the snake wrapped around him by King Parikshit, wasn't so bothered by it. It didn't upset him. Right? He knew he was just, this is just, he was just upset. It's not a big deal. It wasn't a big offense. No problems, because he also knew who Maharaj Parikshit was. And when his child tried to defend him, this created such a big catastrophe, because this, like I said, this kicked off the whole coming of Kali Yuga. And so in this Kali Yuga, what are some of the symptoms of Kali Yuga? In Srimad Bhagavatam 12:341, it says right here, in Kali Yuga, men will develop hatred for each other, even over a few coins. Giving up all friendly relations, they will be ready to lose their own lives and even kill their own relatives. So, this anger. This boy had so much anger, and he was so aggrieved by his father seemingly having an offense made. And he wasn't thinking it through. And this is the influence of Kali that came into this child to really influence his mind. And this is something we see even in Kali Yuga today, how these influence can twist us suddenly, and we're not thinking clearly, because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it says that it's pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service. One becomes a pandit and does not make distinctions between enemies, friends, and himself. Intelligently, he then thinks every one of us is an eternal servant of God, therefore we are not different from each other. And this is an important distinction. So this is, in Bhagavad Gita 2:14, there is a very important verse that it says, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. And this is really coming from that happiness and distress. So what happens when Shamika Rishi realized that he had a snake wrapped around him, and who did it? That's not a big deal. Not such a big deal, because he is a great sage. He follows that principle of being a devotee. He is not. There's no distress here. The happiness and distress is equiposed. completely equal posed in happiness and distress. And this is something that, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, best among men, the person who is not disturbed in happiness and distress and is steady in both is certainly eligible for liberation. So Krishna is telling us right here. Prabhupada says in the purport, anyone who is steady in his determination for the advanced stage of spiritual realization and can equally tolerate the onslaughts of distress and happiness is certainly a person eligible for liberation. So Prabhupada continues in this purport, in the Varnashram institution, the fourth stage of life, namely the renounced order, is a painstaking situation. The one who is serious about making his life perfect surely adopts the sannyas order in life in spite of all difficulties. The difficulties arise from having to sever family relationships, give up connections of wife and children. But if anyone is able to tolerate such difficulties, surely his path to spiritual realization is complete. So here we can see Shamaka Rishi was a sannyas. He was a great, he had taken that order. He had a son, but he was a great rishi. So he was very much in that space of letting go. He can tolerate the onslaught of distress. And so he's setting this example, but his son is not his son, although he has given all these great powers, he doesn't understand how to use them yet. He's like I said, he's in that place of ignorance. He's been given these great powers, but he hasn't been given the understanding and the discernment on when these powers should be brought about. And discernment is something really critical. And so we can see, why we don't, let 10-year-olds get driver's licenses, or, and even 16-year-olds. We can, sometimes see that when you have a 16-year-old driver versus a 30-year-old driver versus a 50-year-old driver, you can see that there's certain discernment. The 16-year-old driver, while they may have quicker reflexes, they don't have the same discernment. They don't have the experience to understand that something could be dangerous. That's something that they don't have the experience to know that, sometimes you might want to pause at a stoplight because people blow stoplights coming the other direction. So you don't want to maybe rush that yellow light or rush through when the light turns green to just blow through through the intersection. So this is the discernment. This is the understanding that comes from experience. And this is where children, oftentimes, they can lack that knowledge. But as parents, the parents guide them and give them that understanding. So, but we can see one example where this whole conversation is flipped on its end, because think about Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj was in the opposite situation. Prahlad Maharaj came from a very powerful demonic family. He had all these great powers and abilities. His father was a great demon. But yet Prahlad had all the knowledge and wisdom to understand how to properly use this knowledge, how to properly use the power, because he was setting the example that no, in fact, what is truly power is pleasing the Lord. It is not about pleasing one's own senses. It is not about taking those powers and using them in anger against someone. I was giving the class yesterday in ISKCON Philly, and we we're talking about the Ashtanga Yoga and how one can cultivate the mystic powers through Ashtanga Yoga. Ashtanga Yoga gives one the ability, if one really deeply practices Ashtanga Yoga, sitting in one place, focusing their breath, focusing their mind, detaching from material activities, over time, with lots of austerities and practice, one can achieve what are called yoga siddhis, or these mystic powers that can do harm or do this or do that. But these yoga siddhis are still, because they're not being used in the service of the Lord, they're just material. And they might even be in the mode of ignorance, because one might be just trying to show off. So in the example here with this young child, he had all these powers, but he didn't understand fully yet how to use them. So we this is a really important understanding. And he very much took on this concept of he is now my enemy. So, and in the seventh chapter or the seventh canto of Bhagavatam, when it's talking about the pastime of Prahlad Maharaj, Krishna says when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is pleased with the living entity because of his devotional service, one becomes a pandit and does not make distinction between friend, enemy, and himself. So I said this earlier. So this is really an important distinction. He does not make a distinction between enemy, friend, and himself. Everyone is a servant of God. Persons who often always think in terms of enemy and friend are unable to ascertain the supersoul within themselves, not to speak of them. Even such exalted persons as Lord Brahma, who are fully conversant with the Vedic literature, are sometimes bewildered in following the devotional principles. So this is even Lord Brahma can be bewildered by this. What to speak of this young boy? And so in taking that understanding, it is really it is really known to be that its devotional service cannot be executed from that space of anger. Now there are examples in Chaitanya Charitamrita, for example, where anger is used. It's used properly, but it also with the example of Jagai and Madai, Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya, Nityananda became very angry at them, but then they became great devotees. So it was used as a way because Nityananda was seeing this offense and the offenses they were making. They became very angry, and so this is one example of and Lord Chaitanya actually they became devotees of Lord Chaitanya. So this is an example of how anger can be used in a proper way, but it's said here the devotional service executed by a person who is envious, proud, violent, and angry, and who is a separatist is considered to be in the mode of darkness. So that is not, even if one is trying to practice devotional service, if they are doing so in a space of envy, pride, violence, or anger, they're still in the mode of darkness. So this is a very, important distinction here, that we can be trying to do devotional service, but if we ourselves or the person themselves is not in a space of equanimity where they are accepting the distresses, not taking enemies. Everyone's equal. They see everyone as equal to that. In their life. Then if they're not taking to devotional service from that mood, they're still in the mode of darkness. They're not going to make much progress. So this is something. So even the greatest of mystic abilities, the greatest of Brahminical powers that is bestowed upon this child, because he's not using them properly, because he's inexperienced, he's created a great offense. And because we know that Kali Yuga, the symptoms of Kali Yuga are quarrels, lies, hypocrisy, anger. We see all of these different symptoms arising in Kali Yuga. That means that this child is illustrating that, and he becomes, it says, he has this hatred of the lower orders, because Maharaj Parikshit is not a Brahmana, not a Brahmin. He's Kshatriya. Kshatriya is in the lower, slightly lower caste in the traditional system than a Brahmana. Brahmana is considered, they're godly. They are giving guidance to the Brahmanas, are giving guidance to the Kshatriyas. They are there to advise. They are seen as, they're seen as sages. They're seen as very knowledgeable. They have these mystic powers. They're very highly regarded. But this child, because of this incident with Maharaj Parikshit, he began to hate the lower orders of life, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, the Shudras, because they weren't Brahmin. They were not in the Brahminical class. And we can see this even in India today, how there's such a strong system. And there's been many attempts to try and unravel this caste system that still occurs in India today, but it's been very difficult. And I've been in conversations with people where they were just talking to each other, or oh well, that person they're in this caste, they're not in that caste. And I'm like, oh, I didn't think that was still a thing we talked about, you know. And even among devotees. So it's always shocking to me to even still hear that these conversations exist in modern day, that the symptoms of Kali Yuga have placed upon our society, and especially the society in India is very clearly laid out that there is this caste, that caste, that caste. But in other countries, it's not as clear, but it still exists 100%. Just because there's a label on it, it still exists. You have racial tensions, you have social tensions, you have socioeconomic tensions. You have tensions between the LGBTQ society, community. You have tensions with, different states, conservative and more liberal. There's constant quarrel, constant tension. There's this constant judgment and reactivity to one another. This reactivity, what it's doing is it's embroiling conflict. It's kicking up more and more and more conflict, and we can see this. But whatever side, or if one sits right in the middle, whatever side one might fall on in Russia, Ukraine, or Israel, Gaza Strip, the Palestinians, whatever side one might sit on, or even if one's just observing from afar, we can see it firsthand. We can see these conflicts, and we can see how the conflicts are infiltrating all aspects of society. And so this is where we can take this story, this pastime of King Maharaj Pariksha. We can see this young child and see how he is starting to cultivate in himself these prejudices, this hatred. And we can fast forward to today's world, and we see it so magnified. It's right in front of us. With social media, I mean, how many arguments have you seen on social media over various topics? Politics, religion, the wars that are going on. I mean, the topics are endless that people fight over online on social media, and they're ready. People are just chomping at the bit. Even we see within this community, we see people arguing over things. Like, how do we rise above that? How do we really come to not get pulled into the conversation, the conflict with, and also, see someone's side? And this is a very, very slippery area. I find that it is a very challenging topic. It's not easy to navigate. But as devotees, we are working to obtain equanimity. We are working toward being equiposed. We are working toward being tolerant. These are not easy traits. We're working on humility, the traits of a Vaishnava, compassion, gentleness. These are the traits that we are working toward, but it's not easy at all. And so through this process of bhakti yoga, we have the tools, but we have the challenges that go along with it. And the tools that we have in practicing bhakti are that we study the Shastra, we associate with other devotees that hopefully have a deeper understanding than we do, that we can learn from them. We chant, we pray, and this is what the path of bhakti is about. And so all of the other stuff, when we focus on our own internal climate and we focus on our own internal viewpoint of how we are entering into the world every single day, we're stepping out into the world and we're dealing with this onslaught, as it says in the Bhagavad Gita, this onslaught of distress and some happiness too mixed in. But there's a lot of distress in the world right now, a lot of distress. And it's really, if you look back over the past few years, it can become very overwhelming. It can become very overwhelming to see the amount of distress and the difficulties that are in life. And so, seeking shelter, it's not that we take a spiritual bypass, and we want to be careful about, doing the spiritual bypass with how we're processing the world around us, because that can also be dangerous. The spiritual bypass is meaning that we're uh, basically ignoring how we're feeling, but we also want to find a way to strengthen our internal selves so that these things don't hit us in the same way. I was watching, a friend of mine sent a video of a Shaolin monk. I don't know if you know the Shaolin monks. They really, they're Buddhists, and they really, work on cultivating their internal um, equanimity. They work on cultivating that inner peace. And he was talking about, if someone does something to you, you let it go. If someone says something to you, you learn to let it go. And the first time you might not, but the second time you think, I didn't let that go. So then the second time someone makes an offense or does something to you, we let it go. And over time, because we have so many opportunities to practice this, goodness knows, because it's the material energies, and there's always opportunities to practice these things because that's life. Then we practice letting it go. I was at an event yesterday where I was giving a lecture to first year medical students at Temple University, and it was very enlivening, and I was feeling really good about it. And I came home, and I encountered a situation through my other business that I run. I encountered a situation that was very disturbing to me. I got an email that just really knocked me off of my happy little floating home on a cloud moment. And it was very, like, like I felt like I got shot an arrow in me, because the message that came at me was, it was a business message, but it was very strong and difficult to deal with. And I felt it, and I talked it through with my husband. I was like, this is really hard. This person's making my life very difficult right now. And it was like, I just took that opportunity. I closed my eyes for a minute. I just prayed. I just prayed to Krishna. I'm like, this person can have a big impact on my life right now. And Krishna, I was like, Krishna, this is hard for me, and I know that everything that's happening to me is under your watchful eye. So it's happening for a reason. So I took a deep breath, and I just was like, okay, let the emotion flow, let the emotion flow, let the emotion flow. And then I just took a deep breath, and I was like, I know how to respond. And I went upstairs, and I typed up an email. It took me like 45 minutes to type up an email response. And I responded to this person. And, he responded back neutrally, but he responded back in a calmer fashion, in a more neutral fashion, which I was, I think, hopefully able to diffuse the situation with him. But it's not easy, and we get tested every single day. And there's days where I just am like, boop, knocked over, I'm like, oh, didn't get up from that one. That one, I just, I couldn't find myself back out of that situation. But the important thing is that we're gonna get these situations. We will have people make offenses toward us or our family, or we might make an offense towards someone else. And just like in this exact situation that we're discussing in Bhagavatam, it's how do we handle it? How are we handling this situation? Are we running out in a fit of rage, ready to get revenge, like this child? This child didn't even gather the information, didn't even speak to his father first to understand what was happening. He was so reactive to this situation, that he just went full tilt, and went after Maharaj Parikshit without even understanding who he was going after. That's avidya. That's ignorance. That's lack of knowledge, lack of understanding. And this is where Kali Yuga gets its power. This is the power of Kali Yuga. This is the hallmarks of Kali Yuga, is that we become reactive. When we become reactive to a situation, we lose our minds. We lose our intelligence. That is avidya. If we lose our intelligence, we then lose our ability to be human, connecting with Krishna. We lose our focus, we lose our center point. And when we lose our center point, we lose all ability to really see clearly. And so as a result, then we're also building up karmic activity as well. And we might even be doing something in this example. This potentially could be creating very bad karma for this child. So we have to be very careful in our activities, because if we don't have a full understanding and someone hurts us or attacks us and we go, we react and we're boom, right back out. Do we know the full situation? Do we know the extent of it? Are we creating karma? Are we creating, additional karma for ourselves? And this is, this is something that this can teach us as a lesson, because like I said, Kali Yuga, this is symptomatic of Kali Yuga. How do we rise above Kali Yuga? Through devotional service, through bhakti. Bhakti is the remedy for Kali Yuga. Chanting the holy names of the Lord is the remedy for Kali Yuga. So when we chant the holy names of the Lord, we're asking the Lord to cleanse our hearts and help us see clearly day in and day out. Because the more that we have connection to the Krishna and to Super Soul, we then have the ability to see clearly. We have the guidance from Chaitya Guru, the Guru in our hearts, to help us see what's going on. We have this equanimity, this ability to be equiposed, even when things aren't so pretty. And that's what bhakti can get us toward. That's what practicing and chanting and really working on our internal devotional life. This is what we're working toward. We're working toward this equanimity. We are working toward that relationship with Krishna, because Krishna provides all. And when we are completely connected with Krishna, we're at peace, the peace formula, right? Because Krishna is the benefactor of all living entities. He's the receiver of all yagyas. He's the Lord of all the planets. This is the peace formula, because when we understand that Krishna is the all comprising, all pervading source of everything, the source of our peace and happiness, the source of our happiness, then the things that we're encountering in these material energies will seem trivial, and they will seem trivial only because we know that there's something greater, and that these are just material reactions. These are just aspects of Kali Yuga that we endure, that we tolerate, and we don't behave like this child, which is boom, reaction, boom, not thinking, boom, attack. So we chant Hare Krishna because we want to keep on chanting Hare Krishna, because we want to open our hearts, deepen our relationship with Krishna, achieve equanimity, be equiposed, achieve peace, and rise above the symptoms of Kali Yuga. So anyway, that's all I have for today. I wanted to open it up for corrections, of course, and any thoughts, reflections, ideas that you may have. Don't be shy.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for a very, very, very wonderful lecture, which has parts of it where definitely your background came through, the counseling and helping us understand what the underlying situations are in different states. When you started talking about the boy Stringy and then compared to Prahlad Maharaj, that was very, very, very nice. But before I even comment on it, first, as host, I'd ask devotees, you can unmute yourself if you have comments, you have questions, you have takeaways that you'd like to discuss. Please unmute yourself and talk now. Hare Krishna. So anyone with some comments?
I have to apologize that I just joined like 2 minutes ago because I had to jump off another class this morning. So I'm going to hear what others have to say and I'll piggyback my questions, Vrindavaneswari.
Looks like Deborah has a question.
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances.
Yeah.
Very, very nice class. I did have a takeaway from this. Experientially, I guess we have to use whatever we have in our toolkits. As you were going along and talking about everything, I thought, this is all true, but how can we change? How can we participate in helping to have equanimity and be equiposed in our own lives? And I was so happy that you used the Shaolin monks, the Buddhist monks, as an example. I was very happy to hear that because in my own practice, I have practiced Buddhist meditation, Zen in particular. And I always thought that I would have to separate that if I was, on the path of bhakti, I just had to focus on the chanting and put the Buddhism aside. But recently, I kind of had an epiphany that I could actually use what I've learned in Buddhism and apply it to bhakti, and prior to that, I don't know why it never dawned on me. I guess I thought it would be crossing over and muddying the pond, so to speak, and maybe not keeping it so pure. But recently, I've been thinking that it's a good idea maybe to do that because it would be helpful. And I just wondered what your thoughts on that were.
Yeah, thank you. So there's I'll answer your questions in reverse order, and I'll go with the one you just asked about bringing your past experiences in. And so we all come to this path with our backgrounds and our karma, even from past lives, and so we're all unique individuals. And so bringing the tools in that work for you is important. And the thing is with bhakti, there's a certain path laid out for success on this path. So we have the chanting, we have the the reading and the association, which is a formula for success in bhakti. And does that mean that you just throw out the baby with the bathwater and say, well, the Buddhist stuff doesn't apply anymore, it's all this? It's you're bringing your own unique experiences to the class or to the your life. And so the essence of it's whether it's not merging as much as it is you can't unknow those things, right?
Yes,
They're part of you. They're just a part of you, and so it's about integrating that. But then if bhakti is a devotional relationship with the Lord. So in the practice of bhakti, we, like I said, we have certain tools that we use to achieve success on the path, and those tools are mapped out for us accordingly through Srila Prabhupada and his teachings. But you can't unknow what you've done in the past. I come from a path of meditation, and different philosophies as well, and I still love to read. I love to read like Gnostic Christian texts and bringing different things in because it deepens my understanding. And I love talking to people from different paths and learning what they do. So I think that it depends on what your goals are. And if your goal is to become a bhakti practitioner, then absolutely, the processes laid out for achieving bhakti are there and they're set forth. And just like if you were to, Prabhupada gives these examples, like if you were to want to go to school to be a doctor, right? You would go through med school, go through the certain coursework and do this and this and this. And then once you've kind of achieved some proficiency and gotten your degrees and such, then you might explore other areas. So it depends. It's really what your goals are. and everyone's entitled to their own goals, and bringing your, like I said, bringing your background into your own personal heart and not letting go of that, I think is an important thing if it's continuing to nourish you. And and the thing is that when one gets to the place of, if they're teaching bhakti, then it's about acknowledging the different paths, but also teaching bhakti in the way that's been set forth according to kind of the Shastra thing. So it's really, so I love that you're exploring all of this, and I'd love to hear from you, offline, how more about what your exploration and your goals are, because I think it's a beautiful thing. So does that answer that question? I don't know if it's
It does.
addressed.
Yes, it does. It really does. I think at the heart of everything is I really appreciate devotees that, when I hear that are really sort of ecumenically centered, and that they can really, bhakti will fit into any practice, Christianity or any practice. I really, really appreciate that. And thank you so much. And your answers have been helpful, and I loved your class. Thank
Oh,
you
well, thank you.
thank you so much.
Yeah, and to answer your other question, just about how does one incorporate all of that, and be more equal pose, it is that process, it is the process of bhakti. When we follow it with sincerity, then and if we are looking inward, because bhakti is also very much an internal process, of observing our own behaviors. How can I do this better next time? Practice, 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 practice. Just like the Shaolin monks, they didn't get to that point just from practicing for a few months of like, hey, look at me, I can handle anything. I'm very, equal pose. No, you practice, 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 practice. And certainly material energies give us enough opportunities to practice, but catching ourselves and maybe keeping a journal, and those are ways to do that. So
Yes, I love
thank you
that.
so
I love
much.
that. I really do. I do a lot of journaling, and it is helpful. And I find that's, yeah, a lot of times you really don't know what you feel until you write it. I mean, when you write it, it's shocking sometimes. I felt that. I wrote, it really brings it out. But
Yeah, it's a
well,
beautiful process. Well,
thank you
thank
very
you.
much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hi, Krishna.
Hare
Dear Krishna
Krishna.
Prabhu, I think dear
Yeah,
Krishna Prabhu had a question.
yes. You can read
He
it if
wrote,
you want. Go ahead. Yeah.
yeah, even if we are able to control our anger to some extent, how to not get impacted by someone who might be angry on us due to any reasonable or unreasonable, real or imaginary reasons, how to protect our consciousness in those situations. Yeah, that's hard. That's really hard. Pray, pray, chant. One thing that we can do is we can chant the Nishringadev prayers. We can, chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra when someone's directing anger toward us. We can take deep breaths. But I think, chanting is really, we process the anger coming toward us, remind ourselves this is their anger. It's not for me to hold. We don't have to hold someone else's anger. Even if they're throwing at us, we don't have to catch it. We can make a choice, and it hurts. It hurts. We can leave the situation. I'm extremely sensitive. I'm very sensitive to emotions around me. And if someone's extremely angry, I can't even stand next to them. I have to leave the room. So we get ourselves out of the situation. We take some deep breaths. We chant. We pray. Whatever it does to restore our own well-being. Because if someone's coming at us, whether it's justified or not, if someone's coming at us angrily, it hurts. So we have to protect ourselves and to hopefully not react instantaneously, to take a deep breath, walk away, gain our composure, create our shield of the Maha Mantra, create our shield of the Nishringadev prayers, whatever that shield is. I wear a bracelet of black tourmaline, which is a crystal that, I wear a black tourmaline crystal bracelet when I go out into the world, because to me that feels like an extra shield of protection. I wear my, my Nishringa necklace when I go out into the world, and my tulsi beads, because to me those are just extra like talisman, but to me they feel significant. So I hold them, and I feel that protection from someone else's anger, because we can only control how we respond. we can't control someone else's, activities and actions against us. So we have to do our best to protect, and to also to try to feel what we're feeling and do our best to deflect and realize what they're projecting is not ours. It's not ours, it's theirs. We don't have to catch it. So I hope that answers your situation or your question, Prabhu.
Definitely, we benefited a lot from the way you answered it. I'm sure he'll probably text his response to that. He normally
Yes,
does when
thank
he
you. Very
texts
helpful.
questions
Yeah.
also.
Thank you,
It's
Prabhu. So
wonderful. Very,
any
very
other?
nice class. I'd like to go over a few things that I had as takeaways. When you started talking about the inexperienced young boy, Stringy, who was trained early by his father to be a Brahmana, and then he became that powerful. He cursed Maharaj Pariksit without good judgment because of who he was. He was just thinking in terms of that he was a Brahmin and the Kshatriyas, which are lower than us, and he actually segued into discussing caste, the Buddhists discussing caste consciousness. Some people in Indian body, they do that, and which is unfortunate, but they're still around this kind. And as you were talking, I was just thinking about different situations, and I'll talk about that a little later. But anyway, Prahlad Maharaj, when you made that comparison, as young as he was also young, but he never abused any power. He relied on the protection of the Lord the whole way through his life, which was wonderful. And then you talked about trying to do devotional service. If we're not seeing equanimity, then we won't make much progress. So also another point that picked up. And devotees getting embroiled in arguments about this kind of social media. It's also kind of the things we have to be careful about. Mhm. And that I'll ask something about. But and then you also mentioned about when someone says something, let it go and practice that letting go. And then after a while, things won't affect us so much. Maybe that actually partly answers dear Krishna's question. Yeah, about letting go. Um, and then chant Hare Krishna to attain equanimity. Yeah, Krishna's energies and all his energies are in holy name. So it's that powerful. That's why it's solved so many situations. Um, so being involved in arguments on social media. The point I wanted to make about that wasn't a question, but the point that I want to make, especially for people who are new to the society, and the society has such high ideals compared to other religions, so much more that you learn from Krishna consciousness. And you find out every day that you involve in associating with devotees. But we have to understand that we are also called conditioned souls. Why? Conditioned souls means we're not pure devotees. And if we're not pure devotees, the lower nature is there. And so we're all going through purification. And so for that reason, nobody should be surprised that when the devotee does something that may be a little shocking, how is it a devotee? And he did that or she did that. No, we're going through the process of purification. So don't give up on the society because the society is actually purifying people to become better people. If you go expecting raise the bar high and say, oh, these devotees should be very, 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 very much up there in understanding, then you're not understanding the real aim of the society. The society is actually to purify conditioned souls to get to be better. So that was one point that I wanted to add. But everything you said was so wonderful. I'm gonna try to hear the lecture over again just to kind of get
Oh,
more
thank
points.
you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Well, and Prabhu, thank you so much for those comments, and also to kind of feed off of what you're saying about the society, is that we're all in the hospital together, right? We have to
Absolutely.
remember that Prabhupada likened ISKCON to a hospital.
Mm.
So if we walk to every patient room in a hospital and be like, "What's wrong with you? Why are you laying in bed with tubes hanging out of you?" Like, like, well, I'm sick. I'm in the hospital. you
Mhm.
know, that remembering that we're all in here together, and that we're coming in with our own, kind of disease. It's disease of the mind, it's disease of the heart. And then we're all entering in this place with that some sort of dis-ease, or else we wouldn't be here in these material energies. That dis-ease is different for everyone. And that's where it can get kind of murky because we don't know what's necessarily what someone else's disease is. We might see someone walking down the street. We don't know they're a diabetic. We don't know they have heart disease. They might look perfectly healthy,
Mm.
you know? So same when we're encountering on any spiritual path, whether it's Christianity or Buddhism or Judaism or, Bhakti, doesn't matter what path we're on, remembering that we all have our very personal disease that we're trying to work through and heal from. And
Yeah.
so seeing that each individual has something that they are trying to work through and work on can give us greater compassion and understanding when things do broil up and cause distress.
Yeah, thank you very much. That bringing the point that we are making that analogy of a hospital. Back again, my guru did the same thing. This is it's kind of the hospital for the heart.
Mhm.
Mhm. The hospital for the heart.
Exactly.
And if I could just throw one thing in, this is darshan that he was giving, and the whole thing became dramatic. That's when he said that. I remember that. He said it's like going to a hospital and saying, "Whew, everybody here is sick." And then you scream, "Of course they're sick." He summed it up, says, "Of course they're sick." So all the bodies are at certain stages of trying to get better. People who are cured from all diseases, they are pure devotees. Am I a pure devotee? The answer is no. Then I do have some things that I'm sick from that I have to be healed. And that is the reality. So when
Raise
things
both my
happen,
hands, like, yeah,
yeah,
that's me. I
when
got a list
some
of
things happen,
disease. Yeah.
when something happens and you complain, yeah, they're sick. Normally, if you know a person is sick, do you complain about why they're sick? No, you can how to get better. You don't say, I'm sick, but this is from the heart. It's like that. The trick is sometimes we compare it to calming situations. Oh yeah, calmies can get angry, can this, but devotees are supposed to. We have such higher knowledge. Yeah, with higher knowledge, but we have to work towards that though. It doesn't happen overnight. So we're still sick to some extent, even though we have the medicine. We're just taking the medicine. We're not well yet. That's our situation.
Exactly.
Go ahead, unmute.
See
Understand.
you?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, accept my obeisance always a Prabhupada. Again, I apologize for coming at the end, but I think I was able to pick up a little bit of what was talked about anger. And two things came to my mind is remembering from Srila Rupa Goswami's, teachings and linking that to what I was told by my spiritual master many years ago is and I think I've heard it also, if I'm not mistaken, by Chandamali Swami's class or one of the devotees' class, senior disciples of, obviously. It depends whether the anger is beneficial for our spiritual growth or is it just material, you know? And I remember my spiritual master, like sometimes we can say, but gurus do get angry when we don't follow the path, especially when they've said it many, 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 many times. And I remember there was a point where this was back in Gitanagari when he was on the planet. He was to the point, I think after 8 years of repeatedly telling his disciples to do something and we were not taking it, and he got upset. And he says, you guys are not taking it seriously, you're just taking it so lightly. And he got upset. And then he says, you know, when devotees get angry, for our spiritual benefit, it's the hard love. It's the hard love, it's the tough love that we tend to get very it's difficult for us, like when we scold our children, when we tell our kids, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there. The fifth time you gotta yell and they get scared, but it's because that's love is in there. So I was just thinking how much, it's how we use the anger, not for our spirit, not for our benefit, but for the benefit of devotees, for the benefit of our spiritual growth, for the benefit of, the spiritual, collectively. So I was thinking about that. So that was one thing that I wanted to share, that it's just how we use it. Like if we see someone getting hurt, we just don't stand and just watch that person getting hurt. We do get upset about it, because that is, going back to community building, like we would like to be treated the way how we want to be. I'm sure, like if we want someone to come be there for us, we would expect some little bit of compassion, right? And if someone else expecting then we don't do anything, then where is that sense of community? So I was just thinking about how we use the anger, in the correct way. And I think when anger comes in a way that is beneficial for us, sometimes it's difficult to take it. We just got to just accept, kind of think about it and really see, is there a spiritual benefit for me? That's something that I had to go through my journey whenever I was, until today, sometimes if I do something wrong, even my GPT gets mad at me and I have to just say, yeah, he's got a point. So I just wanted to just share that is how anger is used. Is it for our benefit or is it just time pass or, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah, those are very good points, and especially when it's coming from a spiritual master, the the thorn that can come out on the rose, that it's that anger from a spiritual master, when we accept that chastisement as a benefit for our spiritual growth, and that's very enlightening and very uplifting. And even if it hurts, it stings in the moment, that coming from that elevated soul that we trust, and we know that they're giving us proper guidance through that little bit of a thunderbolt coming through, that's how we need to receive it. And yeah, very good points. Thank you so much. Everyone's good conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for all the comments. Yeah, if you don't mind my throwing one more analogy in there, which for me crystallized very much. Because every time we're talking about anger, we're talking about a person who is in position of authority trying to help. So the analogy has been given like a team. The team are devotees, and the guru is the coach. And sometimes when the coach meets the disciples, the team players, he might call out somebody, and be a little bit harsh, a little bit angry about a situation that he had taught the team, but that person didn't do it right. And not because they hate that person, that team player, but they want that team player to do better, and the rest of the team also hear about it, so they can do the right thing. So the coach's anger is not anger that wants to just put people down, but it's actually for the benefit of the person he's angry with, that's a team member, and also for the whole team. So that's also another analogy that was put out there. I wanted to share that. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, thank you, everyone. So I think
Um,
we've come up on our time here. Any other
yeah,
last comments
I'm
or
looking at the
questions?
time.
Yeah.
All right, so thank you, Vrindavaneswari Mataji, for a very nice lecture. It inspired more discussion even at the end of it. So, dear devotees, have a wonderful rest of the week. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpataru vesha kriva sindhve evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Krishna,
Thank you,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.